Welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak here on the Rise News channel. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. For the press review, we have here Rise analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku to stir the boat. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Stir the boat indeed.
Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm just talking based on what we've seen on the front pages this morning.
Okay, good morning. So, to start the boat further, we also have two guests with us. We have Dr. Austin Maho. He is a lecturer at the Institute of Journalism in Abuja. We also have in the offsite studio Eniola Akinkotu. I'm pronouncing it very well today. He is the chief international correspondent of the Africa Report. Gentlemen, welcome. So we'll start with this day newspaper, our sister publication. And on the top mast there we have ATMs. CBN reads Riot Act to banks over alleged inhibition of cash circulation. It says financial institutions are conniving with POS operators to frustrate customers. CBN also says activities of bank staff is injurious to the economy. It's a malpractice and desperation to support the profiteering motive of POS operators. POS, by the way, is point of sale. Then bank staff are sometimes the owners of the POS terminals. CBN says it has consistently made cash available to ATMs, automated teller machines, but there's always the complaint that there's no cash there. The institution said it will apply sanctions. Well, we've been discussing this for a while now. The problem of POS and ATMs, you go to the ATMs, there's no cash, but POS operators have cash available. So the POS that was meant to be a solution has now become a criminal activity. Dr. Maho.
Yeah, sure. It's a big concern. It's a source of concern because one would expect this POS was supposed to serve as, as an alternative, a kind of way of people who can access mainstream bank to be able to have alternative. It's all about financial inclusion, whereby you set up POS point in areas that are unbanked to be able to access funds and to be able to access banking facilities, so to speak. But at the end of the day, what is supposed to serve as an alternative has taken over the banking system in such a way now that you find out that when you go to mainstream banks, they don't have cash to dispense. Or rather, they kind of deliberately withhold cash from what we are seeing. But whereas if you need cash, you go to the POS service provider and they have unlimited cash. It's a problem. It shows that there's a problem in the system. It shows we need to address it. There's inherent corruption, as it is, because corruption comes in different form. So this is corruption in the banking sector, and it is welcoming that the CBN is weighing into it because they are the regulators. These banks are under them to try and rectify the problem. It's a big problem that needs to be dealt with at this point in time.
Yeah. Right, Eniola, this POS was very popular, I think, when we had the COVID problem or COVID health crisis. Also, when a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, tried to change the currency, there was scarcity of cash. So POS was readily available and a lot of people used it. Now the banks are saying this has continued to be a problem and they are saying that they would apply sanctions. So we need to see the sanctions already. We also need, the people that are involved to be named. You want to see a deterrent so that it doesn't continue. Eniola?
How many ATM machines do you have across the country? Roughly 23,000. And you have about 2.7 million POS terminals. So we don't have enough ATM machines. And these ATMs, most of the ATM machines are situated either in banks or in hotels. Most people do not have access to them. If you're not staying in the metropolis, if you're living in Abuja, for instance, if you're living outside town, you do not have access to ATM machines. And so POS has become, the most convenient option. but also it is because of structural issues. You have problems within the system, which the CBN should not be ignoring. The CBN too contributed to this problem, as you earlier pointed out. Last year, when the Naira redesign policy came into effect, it was very, very difficult for people to access cash. And so even now, ATMs, the highest you get, maybe if you're using your own bank ATM card is about 30,000 Naira. Then if you're using the card of another bank, probably you get 20,000 if you're lucky. So POS have become the most convenient option. So it's not enough for the CBN to say, oh, we're going to sanction. Right now, it is very, very inconvenient for people to use ATM machines. Then lastly, obviously, there's sabotage within the system. The CBN says they want to reduce the cash flow and all that. They've increased the cash reserve ratio as well. So in fairness to these banks, there's not enough cash to go around. And so it's not enough for CBN to say, oh, we're going to sanction banks over this ATM issue. I think both sides are to blame for this.
The issue of the ATMs, yes, there are insufficient ATMs across the country, but that's not the problem, because the ones we have, the issue is that when you even go to them, it's difficult to get cash. And then secondly, like you mentioned, you have money in the bank, but you go to the ATM, you are only able to withdraw maybe 10,000 at a time. It's so frustrating if you want to get 100,000 Naira. You have to keep going back every second in order to get that. You know, it didn't used to be like this many years ago. Now it's a problem that your own money, you cannot retrieve it easily, Nkechi.
You know, this really all started when the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, tried to do the Naira redesign, and we had all those deadlines for you to bring in the old notes, which are still legal tender now, and to have that new note. So since then, that policy was not reserved, which is why you go to the ATM, we don't have any cash. Now, this situation is not just about cash shortages at ATMs, it's about a deeper issue of integrity and trust within our system. You have the CBN saying that this collision between bank officials, POS operators, this collision persists even with previous warnings. Remember last year, the CBN did this riot act again and said, look, we're going to sanction people that are involved. And it seems that they know the people that are involved, so why don't you sanction them rather than always issuing out warnings, and maybe in a few months we'll have it on the front page again. So like Mr. Eniola said, this really is a systematic problem. It just boils down to the foundation and how we actually deal with issues in the country. There's no trust between bank officials and POS operators colliding with each other to I don't know, hinder Nigerians of getting cash or play on people who are desperate, people who don't have banks in their area, is really a big problem. And if the CBN knows the people that are involved, the banks that are involved, POS operators that are involved, they need to be named and shamed, they need to be sanctioned, and we need to see this being done in the public space. In
fact, this report tells us, or this article tells us, that some of the bank staff own those POS terminals. And you also have to wonder how the CBN, it's also the relationship between the CBN and banks. As a regulator, are you really a regulator and doing your job efficiently, or are you in bed with the banks? Because if you are, then it's difficult to wield the big stick when it is necessary. Let's move on to the Vanguard newspaper. So we have a story on the crude oil theft. Crude oil theft, why government can't stop Lagos, Abuja cartel, PANDEF, Niger Delta leaders and activists. They are challenging President Tinubu to summon political will to stop the theft. Leaders and activists in the Niger Delta are saying that there's a massive network of big players in politics and the oil industry who steal crude oil. They say based on this, or because of this, the government is powerless and seems unable to stop these illegal activities. Well, we've always known this for a while. It's been public knowledge. But this statement was made following the allegation by former governor of Bayelsa State, Siriaki Dixon, where he said that the thieves in Abuja and Lagos and other world cities are being protected by the government. This group also says that the cloudy arrangement between the government and international oil companies constrains proper metering of oil fields and crude oil exports. Then the spokesman of PANDEF, Ken Robinson, he stated, and I quote, "Elements in the military, officials in the oil industry with international syndicates are perpetrating oil theft in Nigeria, in Niger Delta. What our young people do in terms of local refining of crude oil is bucket thieves." He said it is insignificant compared to these people who do not want Nigeria to prosper. Heavy allegation, but as I said earlier, it's public knowledge that big players are involved in oil theft in the Niger Delta. But if Ken says that they are bucket thieves, I think a thief is a thief, no matter the degree to which that theft is carried out. But the widely held view is that the government truly, deliberately does not or is incapable of solving this problem. Eniola?
Definitely. And it's one of the reasons why Nigeria has not been able to meet its OPEC quota. Currently, we're doing just about 1.2 million barrels, thereabouts. If you recall, this guy, what's his name, Tompolo, the company that he owns, Tantita, they came out pointedly to accuse the chief of naval staff then of being behind this cartel. Of course, the Navy denied it, but that was where it stopped. There is indeed internal collusion going on, and there's a lack of political will. And it didn't just start with this administration, too. It started a long time ago. There's a lack of political will, and that's one of the reasons the IOC said, look, we're going to divest from our onshore assets. We're going into deep waters because of the constant attacks that we keep encountering. So, yes, there's this a lack of political will to tackle this issue of oil theft. I think NNPC said recently, I think it's the NNPC GMD who said, look, we need to declare a state of emergency on oil theft because it's causing too much problems for the economy. They know these people. Some of them, they've given them contracts. Some of the repentant militants, they've given them contracts to surveil pipelines and to protect pipelines and all that. But we haven't seen any improvement, really, in Nigeria's oil production. So until the government is willing to bring those people, those who are found wanting to book, this thing is going to continue. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, they have been divesting for some years now, but that also presents a problem because in Nigeria, you know, the view is that they're exploring oil in the deep waters and we don't even know, we're not sure of the quantity. We accept whatever is declared to us. It looks like we're just a helpless nation, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, are we really helpless? At times when we hold this discussion about the problems in the oil sector, let's not forget that the president himself is the Minister of Petroleum. You know, Lukbobiri is just a Minister of State. And as the Minister of Petroleum, the buck stops on his table. And if he wants to deal with this problem, like Eniola said, it takes political will. And if the political will is not there, the problem is going to persist. Nigeria has an OPEC quota of 1.5 million barrels per day. But I can tell you, not just since this current administration, but throughout the 8 years of the past administration, we have never as a nation been able to meet our oil quota. Nigeria at times will say we have a revenue problem. Enough forex is not flowing into the country. And that is why we have this problem of forex and the exchange rate. If we are this, to me, you know, if we are able to meet our quota, it's like a low-hanging fruit which we can latch on to be able to solve our forex inflow problem. But what are we doing? All oil, crude oil stolen from the Niger Delta flows through the Atlantic. And there's a ship berthed offshore which takes this crude oil. So what's the problem? With advanced technology, you can trace easily who are the thieves. And you spoke about, about bucket thieves. There are bucket thieves. A thief is a thief. But we are talking about those who are stealing between 300 to 400 barrels of crude oil worth billions of naira that ought to be flowing into the country. That's the real problem. And if the government is telling us that they don't know who the thieves are, well, I'll just chuckle, I'll laugh, because there's no doubt that they know. Accusing, it's not those who are stealing, using buckets to steal crude oil for local refining within the Niger Delta region. The big thieves are there, and government knows them. Those in authority knows them. Those who have been sent as part of the multinational force to check crude oil theft in the Niger Delta, they know them if they are not part of it.
Right. You know, President Bola Tinubu can write his name in gold if he's able to tackle this problem headlong, focus on it. And I don't know why it is so difficult to install metering in our system. It's one of the ways, you know, there's so much innovation going on. We're not the only country that produces oil. So many countries in the world and that are run by state oil companies and do that productively. What is so difficult in installing meters? I think one of the reasons is that they do not want the oil theft to stop, because if you do want a system that is clean, there are steps, there are things to do, there are ways to manage that, Nkechi.
And to also track the oil movements. This report from the Vanguard states that one of the best solutions to do this is to invest in that technology to be tracking all movements, remediating environmental damage, and also they even mentioned halting of expansion of new oil fields. But I think the first point to tackle is the assertion by the Pan-Niger Delta Forum that these primary culprits behind crude oil theft are not local militants, they are not impoverished villagers, but rather highly placed individuals in government and oil industry. And you have Honorable Robinson from PANDEF saying that these players enjoy a level of protection that makes it nearly impossible for the government to take decisive action for this. And one recurring term that we've been discussing about this issue is the lack of political will. You have the former Attorney General of Akwa Ibom State, Mwoko, who basically said that the government is eternally blind to the issue due to its vested interest. You also have other experts pointing out this systemic corruption that allows this theft to just basically swept under the rug. Every time people come out to say, look, this type of theft, these people who use technology to actually conduct this. And so it's not just bucket thieves. These are people who are highly placed, who have connections, who have the funds to move this type of syndicate, really.
Well, what we are seeing in Nigeria, I think, is a level of state capture for private gain, for private benefit, and it has been completed. It's going to be very difficult to roll this back. But I think Nigerians need to be aware, a lot of people are aware that, you know, we are now, you know, solidly lock and key by private individuals and certain less than 1% that have captured the country and are running it. Let's go to Punch newspaper. We're going to be looking at the food crisis on Punch and newspaper. Food crisis, 82 million Nigerians may go hungry soon, the United Nations warns. This prediction of the UN implies that about 64% of the population may be afflicted by hunger by 2030. The government is being warned to tackle climate change, pest infestations, and other threats to agriculture. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, food inflation is now at 40.66% as at May 2024. This represents the largest year-on-year increase in food prices since 1996. That's major. Historically, food inflation had averaged 13.42%. Well, a very bleak prediction of the future state of things right there. But I think we can see it heading in that direction. The first point to note is that the decline is incremental. You know, many years ago, more than 10 years now, when the Boko Haram conflict started, I think many people did not see the far-reaching implications of that terrorism onslaught on Nigeria. It started and we were joking and playing around with it. Jonathan tried to tackle it, and you know, some northerners told him that he was decimating the north. He became politically motivated. You know, they accused him. Now we have seen the impact now is affecting agriculture, so it is spread all across the country, and so it did not start today. So this warning that is being given or being issued today, they are looking at 2030. That means that a listening government, a government that is focused and determined, has to begin now to tackle this problem. Eniola.
It's good that we've been given ample notice on this, but it all depends about government priority. And it's not just federal government, it's also states. You remember that agriculture is also on the concurrent list. So it's also the states. If a governor decides that, look, it is a non-viable airport that I want to construct for my people, or it is flyovers I want to construct in the rural areas, then there's really nothing anyone can do. So first of all, you need to, I mean, the government, I think last year, declared a state of emergency on food security. So they already know that there's a problem, which is a good start. So we now need to back that up with action. There is serious problem of insecurity in the country, and most of the places affected are agrarian communities. Benue, Zamfara. In fact, Zamfara zone is even is pathetic because the title of Zamfara is "Farming is our pride." That is what Zamfara is known for. When Zamfara was created in '96, that was what it was meant for, farming. Now Zamfara has become the epicenter of insecurity in the country. You have Kaduna, you have Plateau states. These are states that ideally should be providing, that should be feeding the country, and they're all being plagued by insecurity now. So any serious government, first of all, now has to tackle insecurity. Secondly, you need to increase investments in agriculture. There's no two ways about it. You spoke about 40% inflation rate in food. There's another statistics that about 65% of disposable income goes to feeding. So when the average person is spending about 60 to 65% of his income on food, you know that there's a problem. Because if you look at Maslow's need of hierarchy, sorry to digress, you see that food is one of the most basic, it's one of the most basic things that you should fulfill in life. So you have that problem. These are the major problems that government needs to address, and it needs to happen at the state, federal, and local government level.
Yesterday, when we were discussing the stabilization fund, the 2 trillion naira stabilization fund by the government, I think about 500 billion naira or thereabouts was allocated to agriculture and food security. And we did discuss that it's time to begin to prioritize this particular area, because you do not want hunger, massive hunger in the land. A hungry population is also a security threat for any government, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, certainly. Say a hungry man is an angry man. And like Niola said, among the hierarchy of needs, food comes to the top. Food is premium. So government needs to put its act to order. And, at times when we talk about Nigeria's problem, it's so easy, and you begin to wonder, why is it that policymakers are not seeing, the inherent danger in not able to feed a population of over 200 million people? So it is what it is, and government needs to put its act together. It has been long in coming, it has been predicted. When you have a situation across the whole country, not just the northeast and the northwest and the middle belt region, where insecurity is prevalent. Farmers are prevented from going to their farms to harvest their crop, or even when they have to go, they have to pay bandits to be able to access their farm. It's a problem. And we cannot go on talking about this when government seems not to be listening or coming up with measures which are not holistic, which are not decisive throwing money to the problem cannot solve it. We need to really get down to the root of insecurity. It's affecting us. When you have a situation of food inflation running at 40%, the highest in decades, it's a very big problem. And government needs to put its act in order and address this problem, because food insecurity is national insecurity. It comes down to national insecurity. You cannot be spending over 60% of your income on food. A tuber of yam, as we speak, one, costs about 5,000. How many homes in Nigeria can afford that? So government needs to pay attention to food insecurity and the fact that the entire food insecurity as a result of insecurity across the country. So it needs to be dealt with.
You know, we haven't even talked about the nutrition implications for people, the health implications, nutrition. Already, there are states in the country where malnutrition is a problem. And then you add on top of that, the lack of food. So the solution is not only for the federal government. There are different levels of government in this country. The states, apart from the states also, the politicians, because we have seen how politics has driven some of this insecurity that we are witnessing in different parts of the country. So there is work for every level of government here, Nkechi.
Yes, and it's a grim picture. I think we've said it all. But one cannot help but just emphasize and draw parallels with past warnings. This is not the first warning that we're having. Yes, it's good we have ample time to plan, but we have past warnings that have been ignored, which is why we're where we are right now. You have the Food and Agriculture Organization already highlighting that millions in states like Borno State, Zamfara, Sokoto might face a food crisis between June last month through August and through the end of this year already. And we're seeing a combination of years of neglect and also policy failures. Now, this issue is not just about numbers. It's about the stories behind them. Nigerian workers are grappling with rising food costs, fuel scarcity, everything just basically threatening their survival. Transportation costs are high. They don't have affordable, available medicines for health conditions, available, affordable education, basic education. And so the call for action across board is clear, it's urgent. The government just needs to step up, basically.
Well, I think it's time for break. We'll take a short break, and when we return, the newspaper review will continue. Stay with us.
It's 7:34 West African time. This is Daybreak. Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing the top stories making the front pages this morning with Dr. Constance Ikoku.
Thank you, Nkechi. So our next story is linked to the last one that we discussed on hunger and food insecurity. Let's pull up the Independent newspaper. And it says here, how Tinubu approved adoption of GMO seeds despite opposition. Experts, we don't need GMO to feed Nigerians, farmers insist. Experts say allowing GMO food to dominate our food system is akin to returning to slavery. GMO supporters say it will boost agri productivity. Others argue the government should tackle farmer-herder conflict, as GMO is being promoted under the false premise of addressing food security. Hunger is basically caused by insecurity, lack of basic infrastructure, power imbalances, government policies, etc. But the president already approved GMO maize seedlings. Okay, yeah, right here. So this is another angle to the food insecurity that we are facing. The government has approved GMO maize. I think it's been supported by Bill Gates, who is all over the world, supporting all sorts of causes. And people are concerned about this GMO introduction because they say that the bottom line is that the government doesn't want to solve the problem with insecurity, which is affecting food production. introducing GMO has its own problems for us. So, for instance, you're going to be buying seedlings from international food chains or people who control food internationally, and then you're stuck with that. Eniola, is this the way to go?
Well, you know, this issue of GMO is a very, very controversial issue across the world. There's really no general consensus, although there's some sort of consensus in the science community that GMO is safe for consumption. Nigeria has a big problem at the moment. We cannot meet our own local needs because of insecurity and because of poor funding. Now, it's two options. Either they allow GMO or you open your borders for and allow all manner of imports to come in. You know, some will say that, look, GMO is not safe, but really there's no evidence to the contrary. The major issue I see here also is that in developed communities, in developed climes, in the UK, US, where you have GMO, in the UK anyway, where you have GMO, it's stated there when you're buying it. If you're buying, say, a banana, it's written there that this is GMO and all that. So there's regulation, so you can choose whether or not to buy it. The problem Nigeria most likely is going to have is because we have poor regulation agencies, you know, very weak regulations, it's going to be difficult for, you know, GMO food is going to be easily passed off as organic and natural food. But as it is right now, there's really no evidence to show that it has any adverse effects anyway. If Nigerians do not want GMO, I think the most important thing they should do right now is to tackle insecurity, boost investments in the agri sector, as I said. But until then, it's either that or we're going to go hungry. So I think it's a trap between the devil and the deep blue sea at the moment. That's what it looks like.
We're talking about consensus. There is no consensus that GMO is healthy for human consumption. There have been concerns raised about, you know, cancer and other kinds of health implications. But there's also this other angle. If you start buying seedlings, you eventually, or your seedlings or your agriculture eventually will be controlled by companies that provide you with that seedlings, because in the long run, you decimate your own local seedling. This is about food control, Dr. Maho.
Yeah, it's about food control. I'm happy you brought that up. It's about food control. It's about who controls the source of your seedling. Because the danger is when you rely exclusively on seeds that are genetically modified, you know, for your agricultural productivity, you find out that your local seedling, the ability to develop your local seedling industry will be affected. Because when you use genetically modified seedlings, you know, for planting, you cannot use those same seed, you know, to plant the next season. You have to order for the seed company to send you seed. So that's the danger. It will affect what our local environment have been used to for centuries. So that is why those that are expressing concern are looking at it. And for the fact that, you know, you said GMO, there's no conclusive science that GMO poses danger, you know, to the society. The question I always ask is, why is it that the West are promoting organic? Why is it that they are not pumping GMO, genetically modified produce into their own system? Why is it that there's strong regulation in Western countries when it comes to genetically modified crop, but yet they want to push African countries to accept genetically modified crop, seedling? However, like I always say, a hungry man will hardly have a choice to decide. If I'm hungry, I have a bowl of food before me. I'm not likely to ask, is it from genetically modified crop or is it organic? My first instinct is to satisfy my hunger. And that is where the problem is. And that is why we need to. I've always believed that we should be able to solve our problem using homegrown means and not relying on the Bill Gates of this world or international institutions to tell us that the best way or an only way to solve, our inherent problem is to look up to them, to their industries, to give us what we need to solve our domestic problem.
And
we need to look inward to solve our problem.
This is where long-term planning comes in, because they're already warning you that by 2030, you face massive hunger. So you want to begin to work on that now. I mean, when you go to developed countries, organic food is so expensive. Yes. In fact, they have special shops for organic food, and a lot of people want organic food, not the GMOs. But it's not affordable. Here in Nigeria, in many African countries, we have organic food. If you open that door to go down that road, where you now close the door for organic food, it's going to be a sort of crisis in the future, Nkechi.
Yes, and Dr. Maho is right. People who are hungry, who haven't eaten for days, who don't have affordable food, don't even know what the difference is, GMO, organic. All they know is, look, we need to eat. And also planning is very important. You have the Health of Mother Earth Foundation basically saying that the government didn't conduct adequate risk assessments or policy discussions before coming to this conclusion. And this is where the problem lies. You need to do all your assessments and have that plan. And I think this also boils down to communication, sensitization of your citizens. You need to tell us, okay, this is our plan. We want to go into GMO. We need short-term plan, medium-term plan, long-term plan, and we need to follow it up. Don't just announce this and tomorrow we forget about it. Next year we probably come back and say, this is 1 year that so administration announced that we're going to go into this GMO seeds that is supposedly supposed to be a game changer and is supposed to tackle our food insecurity in the problem. Meanwhile, you can actually figure out the root cause of food insecurity in your country and how to tackle it within, because we actually have potential to significantly boost our agricultural industry in this country.
Perhaps we need more discussion on these public hearings and serious discussions on this in our country, because like they say, politics has consequences. And the political leaders or those in authority are leading human beings and people, and they shouldn't be making decisions without proper consultations. I think a lot of Nigerians are worried about this, and we need to continue the conversation about this. Let's go to the international headlines. Shall we look at newspaper? So this is talking about the British elections again. Elections have come and gone. Starmer tells UK, politics can be a force for good. He met King Charles and formed a new government. He's named a new cabinet already. This was immediate, no waste of time. Reina is Deputy Prime Minister. Rachel Ray is first female Chancellor. Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary. Women on the run there. So I want to go back to his statement. Politics can be a force for good. I think this is very poignant, in light of what we are facing in our country and the way that politicians behave here. Public service is a privilege. It is not meant to be abused, and I think that is what he's getting here. And I think there are lessons here for us in Nigeria. Public service, Eniola. Eniola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. The UK Prime Minister is spot on in this regard. And one thing that even drew my attention was the speed on how he was able to set up his cabinet. You have Rachel Reeves already as Exchequer. You have David Lammy there in Foreign Affairs. Look at Nigeria, for instance, where the previous administration took 6 months just to set up a cabinet. And even this recent one, this current administration as well, took more than 60 days, to set up his own cabinet, despite the constitution even insisting that you shouldn't take more than 60 days to do that. So it shows how the speed of governance is in these countries, and I think it's something that is worth emulating. The UK Prime Minister's speech so far has been spot on. You know, he spoke about them coming together, politics being a force for good and all that. He's been hitting the right notes, and right now he's still in his honeymoon season, so it's hopeful that he will do all that he promised that he was going to do. But more importantly, I think the UK system is worth emulating. As I said earlier on, in the First Republic, this was a system where that Nigeria was practicing. You say that the public office was not as, wasn't for those with ostentatious lifestyle and all that. It was for those who were willing to serve, those who were ready to serve the country. And Nigeria has a shortage of such people. So I think this UK election, the election itself too, was so seamless, you know. So it's worth emulating. And so far, everything that the UK Prime Minister has said has been spot on, and I hope it continues.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is already former, so public office is so fleeting. So Rishi Sunak yesterday apologized to the country. He said that he had disappointed them and that he was taking responsibility and he had heard them loud and clear. Of course, this was in the light of the battering, total battering of the Tories in the polls. This shows leadership. A leader wants to take responsibility because you recognize that you are there to serve. And again, as I said, it's a privilege, Dr. Maho.
It is a privilege. And, you know, like Eniola noted, the seamless process and the lessons we can draw from it is what matters. You know, within a space of 48 hours, elections were held, the results were declared, and a winner emerged. We didn't have, I don't even know the head of the British electoral body. But here, you know, the head of our own electoral body was a superstar during the election.
Yes.
Because he need to come and explain to us why there were glitches in the system. We didn't hear about any glitches in their own system. We have not heard. The winner and the loser, they've all embraced the process. At times when you look at the British system, I've always said that, you know, a democracy that have lasted for about 900 years, we have a lot of lessons to learn from it. In fact, we have the lesson of what is civilization. The British, you know, they have this way of teaching the world what civilization is all about. If you want to understand civilization, understudy the British system and the British style of administration, which they've bequeathed to the rest of the world. But the point is our politicians learning. In Nigeria, we fight before election, we fight during election, we fight after election. Are we going to continue like this?
Right.
Certainly not.
Right.
We need to learn and put those lessons in practice. Not, well, imagine if a Rishi Sunak is going to contest the election.
Right. I think this also reminds us that electoral reforms are important. You know, we're going to be having the next elections in 2027. So you want to start now to, you know, conduct that electoral reform that provides you a system that is trustworthy, a system that has integrity. Do you see that happening, Nkechi, under this government?
Under this, you just put me on the spot.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I mean, I hope it happens. I think that's what I can say about that, because Dr. Maho, you're right. When you have, after elections, you need to be focused to start the work and hit the ground running. Keir Starmer has already thought about his cabinet. Immediately,
Yes.
Because you're running for prime minister, you should have a plan. I know he has a 100-day plan. You should know the people you want to work with. It's not when you get in there and then you're thinking of who helped me, who did not help me, who got votes in their state, who didn't get votes in their state. And when you talk about what former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak did, I mean, to us here in Nigeria, it seems like a big deal. He came out to apologize, take responsibility, but really that's what you're supposed to do. It's like you're supposed to wake up in the morning and brush your teeth. No one's supposed to clap for you for doing that. And I think the Daily Express captures that. It says the Express pays tribute to Keir Starmer's historic victory. Our new PM is undoubted undoubtedly decent and sincere. And it says boldly there, let us be gracious in defeat. Let the new captain in charge focus on his work and just keep the ground running. The UK really is facing a lot of issues that Keir Starmer will be dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, he's already said that he focused on the economy, energy, and crime. He has his work. Yeah, he has his work cut out for him, so everyone will be watching him. Expectations are definitely high. There's another story related to this. I pulled it from the Punch newspaper, though. So can we have Punch? Okay. This is local newspaper, but it's related to this. 4 British Nigerians who won UK Parliament seats. So we have Kemi Badenoch. She won a seat in Northwest Essex. She had previously served as Secretary of State for Business and Trade from 2023 to 2024. She's seen as a rising star in the Conservative Party. She's only 44. Then we have Chiamura. She's been around the corridors of power for quite a while. She was re-elected to represent Newcastle upon Tyne. She's 59 and was first elected in 2010. She's an engineer by training. We also have Taiwo Owatemi, who was formerly a shadow minister. He won for Coventry Northwest Labour Party. He's 31 and has a degree in pharmacy. And finally, we have Bayo Alaba on Labour Party platform as well. He won for East and Rochford, I think, yeah. He was raised in East London. He's a youth mentor and currently serving as the first black councillor for the London Borough of Redbridge. Well, some of them were born and raised in Britain, but you know, everybody wants to claim a good story, a success stories, and like we say, Nigeria know they carry last. Dr. Maho.
Yeah, I think we should learn the lesson. You know, the lesson is the British system have created a society that gives equal opportunity to all its citizens. It doesn't matter whether you are British Nigerian, Pakistani British, or Indian British. The thing is that the British society is a leveler for everybody, and if you have been able to prove yourself in the system, the opportunities are is there. If, for instance, you come back to Nigeria, I am from the south part of the country. Let's assume my parents, I was actually born in Kaduna. Let's assuming that I still live in Kaduna. Will I have the opportunity to contest and win election in Kaduna without anybody bringing up the issue of ethnicity and religion? So this politics of identity, the lesson there for us as a country is that we need to keep politics of identity based on religion and ethnicity and begin to see ourselves as citizens, and whatever we have to contribute to national development, we should put it out there and let the people see us for who we are. And if we have what to give to nation building, we should be allowed, the system should allow us, you know, to be able to present ourselves for electoral office.
You know, one might say that Nigeria is more complex than the UK, you know, it's so many ethnic groups. In the UK also, it's a nation, United Kingdom of different nation states. So you have the Welsh, you have the Scottish, you have the Northern Ireland, you know, so they agreed to come together and form the bigger United Kingdom, and everybody based on equality, and everybody respects one another. I think that's a crucial point in Nigeria. Do we want to build a country that is based on equality? It doesn't look like, you know, politicians are taking us for a ride, Eniola. And as long as we do not do that, Nigeria will not progress.
Oh, definitely. Countries that embrace diversity, most times they experience more prosperity than other countries that do not. But if you look at the First Republic, remember that Zik started his politics in Lagos. And there was a time when a northerner was a mayor in Enugu. So Nigeria actually started that way as well until we began to regress. And I think it was the politicians who did that in order to gain advantage. That, oh, okay, this person is not from here, we shouldn't vote for him. We saw what happened in Lagos in the last elections, you know, especially during the governorship election. After Peter Obi had won, it was terrible. So when you enforce such values, it prevents the best candidates from coming out, from emerging. Who says that there's only someone who is from a particular state that can do well as a governor or as a lawmaker? Look at what the UK has become. Rishi Sunak is an Indian. People forget that he's born in the UK, raised in the UK, but he's of Indian heritage. Look at the mayor of London, from Pakistan as well. These are societies that have embraced diversity, and that is one of the reasons why these countries are doing so well. Because when you de-emphasize tribalism and all that, you give room for the best to emerge. So yes, Nigeria has a lot to learn from this. And again, look at these people who just emerged as winners, Kemi Badenoch and the likes. It gives us pride that, oh, wow, we are doing well abroad. But when we come here, we are not happy that someone who is not from our state maybe manages to win a particular election. Look at Lagos again. The guy representing Etiosa Federal Constituency is from, I think, Benue State. And there are already petitions against him online that, oh, this guy must go, he's not from here, and all that. So we need to embrace diversity. When you embrace diversity, the best of us have the opportunity of emerging.
So much, Mr. Anyola, Dr. Austin Maho, Dr. Constance Ikoku. I'm sure this was very interesting. Thanks for joining us this early morning on Daybreak for the newspaper review. That's it here with us.